thing I'd like to do is do a roll call, and we're gonna make it easy for everybody. I'm gonna start at that end of the table. You're just gonna announce your name and say here.
Andrew Waitman here.
Jamie Gagnon here.
Dave Mouse here.
Chuck Griffin here.
Jane Healy here.
Mike Dissett here.
Tom O'Brien here.
Rachel Houston here.
Andy Ford, Director of Planning and Development here.
Caitlin Sullivan, Office of Planning and Development. Jen Dean here.
Joe Teixeira here.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work to this point and your hard work coming up tonight. The main order of business tonight is the deliberations on the applications that we received for this funding cycle. And just give you a short summary of how we're going to approach this. First of all, tonight is for deliberations. It's not public comment, and it's not for any additional pitches to be made by applicants. However, in the deliberations, committee members can have a question. And if there is someone either online by Zoom or in the room that represents an applicant, I can give a short time on the floor for that applicant to answer the specific question. The way I'm going to proceed, because you can appreciate, folks, especially the first timers here, that we're dealing with a lot of moving parts. And the moving parts not only are yes or no, but how much. And we have, probably roughly $500,000 more in asks than we have in availability. And that's for the current revenues. And then there's an additional ask that is addressed toward the Open Space Reserve Fund, which is on top of that. So obviously the difficulty is where to put the money. And as each of us go through our different decisions and thinking, there could be changes of mind tonight. There could be changes of mind both either as to yes or no, or as to amounts. And in the past, when we've had situations like this, where there's significantly more asked than funds available, we somehow have reached to a consensus and have a unanimous decision at the end. And the way we have generally done that is, and it's worked pretty well. First thing I'd like to do is, I'm going to go down the list in the order that's on the deliberation sheet, and just ask for an informal, simple show of hands. And the question will be, how many of you would recommend some amount on this project? So I'm not asking for an amount, just some amount, $1, $100, whatever it is. And if we get more than 5 hands, it goes in one pile. If we get less than 5 hands, then it goes in another pile. And we would then, if the piles stay that way, we would end up spending the most time focused on the projects that have a majority of you with supporting it in some amount. The additional thing we'll do is after we go through the hand raising informal, the pile that has not gotten at least 5 hands raised for some support, we'll just have a brief discussion on a little brainstorm, why and why not. The ones that would not support it, why not? The ones that would support it, why? Because there could be some changes of mind in that discussion, but it won't be a long one. And then we'll go to a general discussion of the ones that have at least a majority 5-hand support. And we'll have a brief exchange of ideas with each one, again, going down in order of those. And then the final round is we'll hear from committee members who have distilled their thoughts to what I call either a docket or a roster, where they've said, this is what I think, I've distilled it down, and here's my numbers and why. And generally then, we find we can work with a roster. We can have one or more come out there, but we can work with a roster so that we aren't just blind as we go down the list. We know where the pieces are moving. You know, if X comes off, then where does that money go? And a little bit of horse trading sometimes, but it has worked. It's worked very efficiently, and we never had to go more than one night. So amazing, isn't it? Okay. So on the informal, again, let me make sure I get the list here that's got the right number. Okay. Again, this is a informal raising of hands as on project number 1. So, good point. Does anybody have any questions about what I just said? Okay. Okay.
So what list are you going up over?
The one that's deliberations for tonight is 1 through 16. I have a footnote here that there's also a worksheet that's got the numbers on it.
It's the same that was handed out earlier by Caitlin.
Okay.
It's on your.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm just noting that I'm not sworn in yet, so I cannot vote.
Same.
Say that again?
I'm not sworn in yet, so I cannot vote.
Well, you're not.
I'm new.
Sorry to hear that. Well, thank you for coming.
I'm in learning with
Okay.
living and learning.
City Hall is still open if you want to run down.
I know, I should have on my thing.
It's still open. Oh, Richard. There's a little bit of an anomaly in this set of applications. And that's, as you know, there at least 10% of the revenues that we've received in any given cycle has to go be put toward open space and recreation, or affordable housing, or historic preservation. So either of those, any of those categories that don't have applications that add up to that amount of money, or don't have bonds that are being serviced by this year's funds in that category, the balance that you need to get up to that 10% would need to be dealt with. And that would be you can see the note at the end of the worksheet, where affordable housing, we've got one application at 15,000. But there a minimum of 10% for that category for this year would be 131,000. So there would be that differential that we'll need to deal with at the end to make sure that we meet that 10%. There's 2 places that it can go. We can keep it in the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund that still sits here, or by virtue of the letter that the Affordable Housing Trust has submitted to us, they suggested that they could use it, and we could make the recommendation that it go into the trust, and the trust uses it for their purposes, as long as those purposes are consistent with all the requirements of the Community Preservation Act. So any of the dollars that go over there, that condition is on there. So, and doing it that way also is, kosher under the community preservation. We can deliver funds. We can recommend to the city council that the funds go directly to the Affordable Housing Trust. Okay, let's do the informal, the round of informal hands here, and project number one, so YWCA Market Street Apartments, that's the affordable housing category at 15,750. Show of hands, how many of you would support this in some amount? Okay. Good. Next, number two, custom house, masonry, $42,200. Again, show of hands, supported in some amount. What have we got here? 5? Andrea, is your hand up? Okay. Okay, we got it. Next, meeting house, roof at the, I'm sorry. This is blocking the Unitarian, yeah, the Unitarian Church. That's $80,000. Same question. Supported in any amount. Next, Perkins Art Phase 2, same question. Supported in any amount. Next, Atkinson Tower Phase 3. Supported in any amount. Next, the firefighters memorial, supported in any amount. Next, the open space reserve fund, $70,000, supported in any amount. Next, the FEMA hazard mitigation, Plum Island, supported in any amount. Is that 3? Yeah. Next, Lake Gloria Bernhardt, Lake Trail, master plan, number 9, $75,000, supported in any amount. Next, the Garrison sign replacement, $2,265, supported in any amount. Next, the boardwalk feasibility study, supported in any amount. Next, the in-street and Tracy Square brickwork, supported in any amount. Next, the Woodman Park basketball, supported in any amount. Next, the Knox tennis courts, phase 2, supported in any amount. Okay. Next, the Hill Street Gardens, supported in any amount. Next, the Lower Atkinson Common artwork, supported in any amount. Okay. We'll deal with the affordable housing minimum 10% at the end of the series here. Okay, then I see, if I'm correct, that the FEMA hazard mitigation and the in-street and Tracy Square projects didn't receive 5 raised hands. So let's start with the, again, this is kind of a lightning round, just like to hear people's thoughts. on the FEMA hazard mitigation project. Either those that decided they wouldn't support it or those that would. Floor is open. I'll start it off. The reason I would not support this project, number one is at a meeting of the Open Space Committee on Tuesday night, we discussed this in detail, this project in detail, and it was the sense of the Open Space Committee that it was not appropriate open space reserve funds to be used in this project. That there was an acknowledgement that there may be some municipal value to it in terms of safety of first responders, protection of infrastructure out there. And those are valuable things, good things for the municipality, but they don't fall into line with what we're saving money for in the open space reserve, and that is preservation of properties that can really contribute to that open space category and the criteria that we've set up for that category. And I think bottom line is the difficulty was that for any kind of money to be spent on that small piece of sand that may or may not be there next week. So anyway, those are my thoughts, and be happy to hear thoughts from anybody else.
I agree with those sentiments. I don't feel like it's the best use of CPA funds. Looking at the open space category criteria that we have, it doesn't seem to fit well. The Open Space Committee, how they came down on that. And also I feel like it's a larger conversation that the city needs to have to spend local tax dollars on buying up property larger than we can do here at the city.
Yes.
I'd follow that too, just that I was thinking about, the return on investment, so to speak, and even though our portion is 10% compared to federal, that's our money as well. And, as a nation, and to me, it seems a risky purchase. I mean, an insurance company wouldn't touch this property. I don't see why we should.
Anyone else? Andrew?
I'm new to all of this, so I think I'm still trying to figure out, like, I was thinking, my thoughts were that I was inclined to say no, because for the research that I had done, and admittedly quite new, I couldn't align it with use of open space. So if your comments were helpful, and I think I worry that we would be buying a space that is going to be underwater potentially very, very quickly, and then we bought sand underwater. But I appreciate your clarifying a little bit about the open space. Work for you to hear the question that I had. So thank you.
Other comments? Yes.
Yeah, I had obviously some real reservations, on this one. We talked about it during the, conversations a couple weeks ago. I raised my hand. I was, read the email that, Ward 1 councilor sent a couple of times. I read the revised letter from the mayor. I raised my hand, because we have the option of lowering the amount that we might allocate to that. So, if there was other city funds available, I thought that it might be a smart thing to do to leverage some CPA funds to support that effort that it looks like the mayor and the city council wants to do. However, I'm not, super strong about it. It's $4 million. It's a lot of money to turn back to the federal government if they called you and offered it to you. So, that was my feeling on it, that, that we could really take a hard look at that number maybe at the end, and see, where we ended up.
Good. Anyone else? Okay. The next one that didn't get the 5 hands was the In Street in Tracy Square. I'd like to hear from somebody who either was in favor of that or couldn't support it, yeah.
I support it. I don't know, that I would necessarily support the whole amount. That's the main reason why I would raise my hand for it. I think that area, is one of the most important parts of the city as far as welcoming people and kind of what defines the downtown. And it's in a pretty bad way, you know, walking around there, bricks literally falling off the walls and stuff. I think it's well overdue. I mean, built almost 50 years ago. It's well overdue for some rehab. I don't know. Like I said, I think if we could at least get them some of that, it would be helpful.
Thank you. Other comments? Adrian?
I raised my hand. I will admit bias because I work downtown and I walk there every day and really notice the brickwork and how much it needs attention and also what a potential hazard it is for people tripping and falling downtown. I must admit that I don't know much about this, but I also see that those two areas as, I know that they're able to rent them out for various things throughout the summer too, and if they're potentially like revenue generating the city in some way, and I don't know if that's true or not, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like they are the most highly traveled parts of Newburyport, and to start to take, I'm okay with it not being a full amount, but to start to take care of that and to replace some of that, to make sure that it continues to look nice and also like for safety issues.
Other comments?
Yeah, I would echo what Andrea said. It is a heavily used area. It's, for a lot of people, it's one of the first places they see too. Parking in the Green Street lot. So for some amount, I think it's worth investing some of that.
I didn't raise my hand and it was hard not to because I do like the project a lot. My decision or my thoughts really fell out from the list that we have, and we don't have enough funds to cover what we're being asked for, and it fell off the mayor's recommendation. So I probably can be turned. There's a lot of good projects that we're being asked.
Yeah, I think it's a worthy project. I just, what drove me was the fact that it was not mentioned in the mayor's revised letter of priorities. And it's also, I think, a project that we can and should see again when there's more money to be spread around. And, you know, the problem certainly isn't going to solve itself. It's not going to go away. And maybe in the meantime, the worst and most dangerous areas can be band-aided until the big project can be funded. Other comments? Okay, thank you. All right.
So can we circle back to those at the end if anyone
Yes.
desires?
Nothing
Yeah.
is done until it's done tonight. When we have an actual, and you'll know when it's a final vote. And generally, everybody cheers when we're done, but yes, nothing is, off the table until it's voted off the table formally by the end of the night, okay? Okay, let's, in the same fashion, just hear people's thoughts, on, the merits of, each project. And then I think we can, those thoughts can also, whether or not you think, it makes sense, and doesn't affect the feasibility of the project to, award it a lesser amount than what's asked. First one is the YWCA Market Street Apartments. Open that for discussion as affordable housing is $15,750.
Yeah, I think I see no problem giving them the full amount. I think there's beyond the community housing aspect of it, which I think is extremely important. and the deal that they're able to give to these residents, I think is amazing and really needed in this community. But also the fact that it's in a pretty important historic home, I think to me just kind of ticks so many boxes. And compared to a lot of the other asks, this is so little, I think, I don't even question giving amount this.
Other comments?
Well, obviously, we have a lot more money to give to that category than they asked. And I was very impressed with the presenter's point of view because they were so careful with the money, extraordinarily so. Agree with everything you just said. I think it should be approved.
Historically, the Y has used funds that have come through us very well. In this building itself, when they expanded it, I'll support that. The results were excellent and the use and the maintenance of the property has been good. Okay, any other comments on that one? Okay. Custom house, masonry work. Question or comments on that? Yes.
I didn't raise my hand for 2 out of the first 3. Not that I don't think they're, historically significant, buildings in the city. I just think that, for places that may have access to other sources of funds, in times when we're $500,000 over our ask, I think in my mind, I want to kind of focus in on, the areas that, we should take care of in terms of open space and recreation, that whose funding would be 100% city, I guess. So I just had a reservation on those 3 at the top, and I kind of wanted to see where the funding, kind of added up at the bottom, to kind of go back at those later. I think we saw to varying degrees efforts to get supplemental funding. I think in one of these cases, I'm sorry, I just bunched all 3 of them in. It's kind of like, it seemed like that building's not ready yet. Talking about the Perkins Art Research Center, there's a lot that needs to be done there. So that's kind of where I fell on those kind of 3.
Okay. Andrew?
I raised my hand to support the customs house, but I must say with some reservation. And again, like, I don't know the history here, but I guess a couple of questions that I had were from memory from the presentation that they have quite a large reserve fund, and I guess I questioned a little bit of maybe why they weren't using some of that for this. And then, I guess as in comparison to maybe the next one, there seemed to not have been matching funds raised in any way. That seemed like they tried a bit, but I would, I don't know if there's history of us giving money to the customs house and history of them raising funds on their own to participate, that maybe you could talk a little bit about for those of us who are new, but so obviously it's a really important building in town, and I think it draws people to Newburyport. I felt like the presentation maybe was a little bit, I was, in comparison to some others where it hadn't shown that they had kind of raised matching fund, and then they also seem to have a reserve fund that was quite significant.
Other comments? To address what you said, we have supported the custom house, on several occasions for different parts of the facade work. And most recently, the portico, had a serious leakage problem, and that work has been, ongoing this year, I think. It was well done, came in, on budget. And apparently, this, particular, application is identified as supplemental. Because we had, granted, they did have an appropriation from the city for assistance on their, repointing and fixing the leaks in the windows and down on the exterior, but in getting into that work, they had increased prices and identifying greater problems. So that's why they're here. In the past, there has been efforts from their membership and from their events, to put it toward the building. Other comments? Next one, we have the meeting house roof, emergency roof repair. Comments?
I guess I'm torn on this one. I raised my hand, because I do think it's a really important building. And roof is a four-letter word. But I don't know. It's the same kind of feeling, as Jamie was talking about, the fact that these places have their own funding. And how appropriate is it for us to give our funding when there's doesn't seem to be that much matching, or other funding sources. But like I said, I'm just torn, I guess, I think because it's such a important structure, and maybe it's something that we can, if there's funds left after giving other stuff up, that would be an appropriate place, but it's definitely making the decision difficult for me.
John?
I'm for it because I guess it's just because I'm an architect and love history. I think it's the most important singular building in our whole city. I can't think of another building that comes to that level. So I'm ignoring the fact of the ownership being a church, just completely ignoring it. And I think that the negatives I have is that trying to treat people uniformly. I can see other churches that say, well, you help them. And then you have the separation of church and state. I'm having to push that out of my head, and would hope that, because I imagine it's all churches and a big building like that that requires huge maintenance, I'm hopeful we could give some significant quantity of money to it.
Yeah, it's a significant piece of historic landscape of the city that we all get to enjoy, walk by it. That's the essence of the hook for any historic building to get funding from this source. The issue of it being a church, we have a separate opinions from the Attorney General as to how we have to determine that it's not a church use, it is a use that is preserving the built landscape for us. So that's generally why, the money goes to exterior issues. And also, I think of it as a church congregation is helping to support and maintain this important structure, and the cost of keeping that building dry and not falling apart, not having deterioration is significant. And they have granted the city a preservation restriction on the deed, so that it's not going to be condos. Maybe it'd be condos, but the outside's not going to change because we have that restriction on it. So that's why I support it. Jane?
I agree with Chuck and others about the importance of the building. It's just, I see it out every window, in front of my house. Things would change if it wasn't there. But in terms of Chuck had mentioned, other churches, and we have funded other churches under this historic preservation category. And I believe we have funded the roof for the Unitarian Church in the past, or there was one significant project that maybe it was the steeple.
It was the
It was the steeple. So our CDA funds have that gone into.
Steeple was in serious trouble. That was emergency. And
That was
this
huge, yeah.
is an emergency as well, because you don't want the water encroachment. So.
And what Mike had mentioned, the Attorney General in different opinions, but I believe we'll have to go through, if we do decide to recommend funding, is go through a 3-step like Kaplan analysis. And I did that for myself, and it passes.
You can leave.
Yeah, for me, the non-attorney of the group. But I would be comfortable recommending.
Other comments? Perkins Arch. $77,536, this is for the new storage for collection. It's basically a second phase of the, we did these storage shelves for the vertical artwork. So this is actually a second phase in the building that we also supported the restoration of the Perkins mid building. I think, just as long as I'm talking, I think that what they're doing over there is wonderful. It's a resource, a historic resource that really the preservation of these items is the key to what they do. This is really going to help them do it and help us get access when we're over there wanting to do some research. Other comments? Sure.
I agree with what you said. It's a unique building and place. And the collection is extraordinary and used by people far and wide. And it's not stored well, protected well. And I think this is really a timely issue to stay on this and get this work done.
Others? Moving on. Atkinson Tower, phase 3, $128,700. Comments? Support, not support?
I hate to be the one each time, the last three, but it's a Parks Commission project and one that we really support and we're doing piecemeal. Because it would be extraordinary to try to do it all at once. I think the work has been done very well. It is our Victorian Park, probably next to the waterfront park. It probably receives more visitors, more attention than others. I supported saying that. I would also say that I think the amount of 128 could be lessened. We'd like to keep the momentum, but we have to have it at full 128. I think the answer is no, but I'd like to see some substantial detail there.
This one's right 2 blocks from me, so I have a affinity for it. And
3 houses from there.
3 houses from me.
I'm with you, I like to rock out.
And I have had people in the park, walking there all the time. Looking at it, and we get into conversations, and they're old time Newburyporters, and they remember as kids to go up there and take a look. Of course, the trees weren't quite as big then, what we see more, but I'm told from the workmen that there's quite a view of the park itself once you're up there. Anyway, I fully support that this plan. Other comments?
Like,
Oh, Tom.
and that's Kim, I was here for the presentation. What about lighting around there? For some reason, the city, about 5 or 6 years ago, took the light out right there. When you go from the beginning of the park till, Chase Street, it's dark as heck. And, there've been homeless people sleeping up there because there's no lighting, there's nothing. The nearest light, I think, is 2 houses down on Chase Street. I don't know if this would go for CPC, but if not, I think the city should get involved and put that light back up. They took it down to save money, but they shut off every other light. That up there is a disaster. But that's where kids go at night. That's where a lot of drugs are being happened. They go in the daytime and they deface that tower. That tower is, I've lived up there for 50 years now, and when I moved in, that town was beautiful.
I can look into it. It's not part of this application.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Now, we've got the firefighters memorial, project number 6, $65,000. Comments?
Sure, I think the, couple of things that impressed me with it was, their attentiveness and listening to what that came in front of the historic commission, and we made some suggestions, and they applied those, and that they're getting this developer to stick to the original price, so we're really getting kind of more for our dollar. I think both of those things really, to me, really stood out as something worth putting our money behind it.
Other comments? Tom?
I've probably been to 20, Fireman Sundays, and would either ride over or walk over there to the cemetery, and coming down, and it's a disgrace, but, I mean, around where the memorial is, the turf is, if you stand there, you might keep going down the hill, you need a little push. So, I always thought that something could be done, and I praise the firemen for taking this on themselves to make it look better. Because, there are a lot of people who go there in that memorial. These are firefighters giving their lives for us. And, I think anything less than 100% final would be a disgrace.
Other comments? Okay. Open space reserve, it's application to put the additional $70,000 into the open space reserve savings account. Any comments?
And just a question regarding the amounts. Are we gonna be, since this is the only open space item that we're probably gonna even vote on, do we need to put 10% into?
I believe that the recreation bonds that are is still being serviced every year counts toward the open spaces / recreation.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have to worry about the 10% for that. Other comments? Next, we've got the bike trail master plan. Just like to point out that this application has with it the indication that a grant is applied for. Need at least 25,000 to make the match to attract that grant, and there's a good chance to get it. So, you know, if the amount were to be reduced, keep that in mind, that we lose the leverage if we go below that amount.
Was it below 25%?
25.
Perfect.
Derek and sign replacement. Any discussion about that one? The boardwalk feasibility study.
I just had a question on, you know, how they could be, you know, the same amount for the bike trail master plan and a boardwalk would both be 75,000. You know, I was thinking one is certainly has a lot more impacts than the other. Yeah, I appreciate your comments on the Brookhart Trail. I think we could do something there, but not full 75.
I think when the applicant was presenting, it was an indication that past feasibility studies for similar projects ran in this range, you know, so
Right.
that was where the numbers came from. And, you know, you get less, you go out and your scope of study is less. So, for instance, the boardwalk, rather than looking at the superstructure, they might just look at the top. You know, where you can fix it so people don't fall down. That would be how you would adjust for you know, a lesser amount.
I was just gonna offer, I work with Jordy, obviously, we've done the rail trail project before. I can tell you that both for a rail trail and for the Central Water Front Boardwalk, both of these will have a substantial amount of design work that has to be done on these different pieces to it, different ways, to be sure. But both of them definitely have that order of magnitude need, to have that sort of information put together by some different aspects of the consultant work. So, just wanted to verify as far as like a, ground truthing the numbers or the estimate or the cost of it, that's pretty accurate. I'm not sure what you're thinking and which one you think is sort of, more or less or so forth, but I can definitely tell you from experience that these projects do take, some engineering and design work to, and again, very much different contexts in different ways. But
Any other comments? No. Okay, we've got the Wooded Park basketball court. Comments on that?
I have a comment. And I guess I would put a little bit, I feel a little bit similarly about the bike trail, which is just that, I don't live over in that part of town, but I have a lot of my friends' children who do. And they don't, I think of all the parks that we have around where I live that we could walk to. And the rail trail and Woodland Park are used by so many kids over there. And Woodland Park is just in terrible shape, so I think that is just a no-brainer from the city's perspective of a place that really will be used a lot and really sit in an area where there's not a lot of other places for kids to go and play, and we want them outside,
Yeah, the project we funded recently,
Right.
the Wordman was the first one that in my tenure here, I'd seen for that part, and that came out pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yes.
keeping the momentum going and getting those people over on that side of the town, a nice place to play. Yeah. Other comments? Knock tennis courts, phase 2. Comments there? Anyone? Anyone?
Yeah, I think that, that would be a great use of that space. I think there's a large tennis playing community in the city. And I think they've done a lot of work raising private money, for that project. So I think that, if we're talking recreation, this would be a tremendous use. And also it puts our athletic facilities, at the high school level where they should be, considering where, we have a ice rink in town for the hockey team. We have a, turf field at the high school and 2 baseball fields, and we have not enough tennis courts to play a proper match. So I think there's a lot of reasons to support this, those 3, plus just knowing the use of that space over the years. I don't think there's ever been a softball game played on that field in my lifetime. So this will put that space into good use. So that's sort of my 2 cents on it.
Okay.
What Jamie said. Essentially, he said it better than I could. Yeah, I have a son who's on the boys tennis team, and I know both the boys and girls tennis teams could really, really use those.
I'll just make a comment that I live very close and that's not a walking route for me. And from the second it is warm enough, the 2 courts that are there on Johnson Street are never not occupied. And if it's on the weekends, it's not necessarily students, people of all ages. So while I think it will, certainly I am all for what it will do for the athletic facilities for the school all summer. It's busy all summer, all the time, all the tennis courts. So I think it will be utilized by the whole community. I would very much support it.
Yeah, I'm really in support of it. I love playing tennis and I've done the jogging back and forth between the couple of available courts. I think my only concern with it is that it's a third of our budget.
It's what?
It's about a third of our budget now. I mean,
The number.
and it is for one, really just one activity. I'm not saying that it's not worth it, for the need isn't there, but it just seems something that the school, where is money from the schools coming to support this? I guess, I think it's just my only reservation on it. It's just sticker shock, I guess.
Yeah. Other comments? Hill Street Gardens. Comments? I was very pleased to see a neighborhood group bring a well thought out, reasonable, modest project to us on their initiative. And I think it should be rewarded. Yeah.
I agree.
Laura Atkinson comment. This is, I think, phase two. And it was always intended after we did the, not intended, but we knew after we did the playground move, in order to prepare this site to be able to do this, that this project may come back to us. And I think that it's, if we have the ability to get it done, and if the, you know, the balance of the monies that need to come from other municipal funds can be there, it's time to get it done and you know, get those cars off of Merrimack Street.
I had a question about it. There was some talk about, like, which parts of it we'd be funding, and like the sidewalks weren't, but the parking lot area. I'm confused at why is there that separation?
There's precedent in case law in interpreting use of Community Preservation Act funds. It basically says you can't do sidewalks.
But we can do parking lots?
Yeah, because the parking lot it's a strange area.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
I think just quite simply, the parking lot is considered part of the park itself as a use or an activity under the CPA. The roadway, this is really about whether or not the cities and towns are required to maintain infrastructure under that category of infrastructure. And, you know, this goes back to the origins of the CPA case law related to it. It's not sort of using it as an offset for other expenditures by municipalities. It was intended to be used for, you know, those uses. So here, if you saw a migration of those funds being used for sidewalks and public right of ways, you can imagine you wouldn't necessarily have the usual CPC projects happening. So that's the reason why.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess it's interesting to me that that we would use community preservation to make parking. I mean, I would rather build a sidewalk through there than parking lots, even if it was an internal sidewalk, would be better recreation money than parking spots. That's still and I know there's been so much work around this project and so many different people put their input on it, but I mean, it's still the biggest problem with it is, I mean, when my kid was in baseball, we would park up around the couple blocks away and walk down. It's not that difficult to park there. If you want to park right in front, yeah, it is. But I think it's something that people need to kind of get over, like being able just to park right in front of where you want to go. Makes sense.
I think this item is by quite some distance the most important thing to the Parks Commission. As you mentioned earlier, there's been so much energy put into it. Tim Turner's designed it. Michael has worked on it heavily. It's a heavily used facility. We went around, you know, some city councilors were upset. We have people upset about their arborvitae that were cut down where trees are going in. It's been examined, maybe not as far as you'd like it. And the wetland that's being taken is easily replicated. That was not an issue. I feel strongly that this should be, if at all possible, should be supported in the full amount.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I happened to be listening to one of the, Parks Department, meetings several years ago or a couple of years ago, and, when this whole idea first came up, and, the amount of agita I have driving down Merrimack Street when there are games going on is, you know, it's worth that much to me personally, so.
I can speak, again, I failed to say it's a safety issue. This really isn't a beauty issue so much as we've got to get the cars so they don't back out into the street. That's an extremely hazardous situation, not only for the drivers, but the youth that are there that are excited. I think we're lucky in many ways that we haven't had an accident at that location.
I'll just repeat my comment from the meeting, and so I think with the possible exception of the 3 roads, backing out of that area is the most difficult driving situation in the city of Newburyport. I think you're right. I mean, it's an accident waiting to happen, and it's so bad. I think people drive slow because it's so bad.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree 100%. If someone been down the park for many years, lucky someone hasn't, like with an act, someone hasn't been killed. Where the people come down Merrimack Street going about, anywhere 50 to 60, and then all of a sudden you got a park coming to you. With a yellow light used to be there, took it down, why, we don't know. I advocate when our city council put a light in there like they have at the high school, where you just press the button. They said, no, it costs too much money at that time, so maybe that's something they can look into. So from there, they might have to stop too many times, but to save the kid's life, stop is well worth it, in my opinion.
Comments? Okay. Now when we get to the moving pieces that have a dollar sign in front of them, we gotta have a place to start that makes sure that we don't overcommit. That's bad. It's like spending what you don't have. So we have, in the budget, roughly, 1.480 that's indicated as available. And each year, in order to not be sure we don't go over, we like to just have a little cushion that we back out of that gives us that cushion so that if for some reason the state money comes in short, or the accounts that we have are wrong, that we haven't recommended appropriation of money that isn't there. The first place that I'm concerned about is that we're the estimate for the state match is 20% this year. I've seen some news reports that say that might slide down to maybe 18, 17%, something like that. Which doesn't sound like much until, you figure that 2% is $20,000. So, what I suggest is that we back out 35,000 from that 1,480. That would be a cushion, and I'm happy to hear from other people if they think that's too much or too little.
Well, just make it a clean 1.4 for math.
Well, I was thinking of a clean
Or
1.45.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we have to go as low as 1.4, because there would be an 80,000 cushion. But if we were to go to 1.45, that gives us a 30,000, and I'm comfortable with that. Everybody else comfortable with that? Okay. So what we're basically looking at to work with is 1.45. In nice round numbers. So, we've got just short of $500,000 a difference now. And, with the directly affecting that current money, if the in-street is totally backed out, that's a big chunk of that shortfall, 239,469 would be backed out. I'm sorry, 246 would be backed out, and we'd have the shortfall down to about 239. And with that in mind, would someone like to float a package that addresses where they think each of the cuts could reasonably be made, and which projects would be included at what amount, to at least get a focus started.
I can, I don't want to unduly influence the group.
No, we're just looking for a starting point.
All right, so want me to just run through them?
Sure.
This is what I have. There's not, and I'm not even set in stone, so just to get the conversation started. YWCA fully funded. I have nothing for custom house. That's a tough one, but that's where I'm falling. Meeting house, 80,000. Perkins Art and Research Center, 50. Atkinson Common, 100,000. Rehab of the firefighters.
Sorry, apologies. Do you, do you mind, only because I'm trying to plug in for everyone else, do you mind, I wasn't sure, are you going in the same sequence or are you going in different sequences? If, I'm sorry, I apologize for not.
I pulled up Caitlin's recommendations.
It should be, I think it's in the top.
Yeah, you're starting on.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to make sure
All
that.
right, so
I
the
captured
first one,
everything here.
fully,
Okay, gotcha.
and change it, not final, it's not final recommended. Take that out.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know,
To
sorry.
avoid any confusion.
Ignore that for a second.
This is
Call it draft for now.
announcing ball here.
What's that?
Okay,
Alright,
so I had just my list, fully funded the Y. I had zeroed out custom house,
okay.
80,000 for the meeting house. 50,000 for Perkins Art and Research Center. 100,000 for, Atkinson Common. Rock Tower. A firefighters memorial fully funded at 65.
Sorry, you had 100, the Rock Tower was 128, so
I said 100,000.
100,000. Sorry, yeah.
65. $70,000.
Sorry, just for clarification, we called this one out, this road differently, just to be clear, regardless of what was gonna happen with it, only because it's not coming out of the yearly allocation, so it's not counted for your deduct, for your allocation at the bottom, which is our, the chair has spoken about. Just to be clear.
Which one?
The FEMA is because it's from open space reserve, either way, whether it's funded or not, it's not counted, so we just call it out different, so as you're thinking about this bottom line, that's the only reason why that row is called different.
Correct.
Trail master plan, 25,000. The signs, fully funded, 2265. Boardwalk feasibility study, oh. Really generous there. Boardwalk reconstruction facility study, 75,000, fully funded. I zeroed out in straight. Woodman Park, fully funded. Tennis courts, fully funded. Street, fully funded. And Lower Atkinson, fully funded. Have an extra 6 there.
Yeah. Sorry. That finger to listen to people.
And then originally 10% was, the 118,000. I think that'll be a little bit different, but we can probably just leave that there and make sure. Yeah. And so I'm finding I have an extra 4,200 at the end if we hold back that 35,000. It's just a quick one. Unspent.
How much is it over?
I have, $4,251 left over.
Did you put anything in, FEMA mitigation, was there that out?
Well, that is, a separate, source of funds anyway, but
Right.
that would come out of the open space reserve funds, which was funds previously allocated from past years. And so that is just staying zero no matter what. And
Just
if we want
it's
to
a separate pot from the current.
So we'll vote on that separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jane, sorry, it was what you have on your sheet. I have, 1441,033.
The total amount that's being, whereas the leftover, if you will. Right?
Mhm.
The unallocated, yeah.
Okay, so that's out there for discussion. And, it's nice to have, to look at it and weigh in on where you would rather move things, either in or out totally, or move money around so that, projects that you would like to see, more, either funded more or funded at all, can get some money. And that's kind of how we have this discussion. This is a discussion starter. And generally, you know, we don't necessarily end up with these numbers. But it's what we found to be the easiest way to focus the discussion. John?
You have a thing on your screen.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's yours, right? The battery issue?
Andy, would you be able to shrink the screen so that we could see, all the projects?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
sorry,
Nick.
yeah, sorry, I was trying to balance those two, apologies for, that's the one. Oh,
Maybe a little bit.
sorry.
A little bigger.
Bigger,
Keep
yeah.
binoculars over here on the cheap seats.
Yeah, let me pull out. Is
That's,
that okay? It might-
ooh, that's
How's
perfect.
that?
Thank you.
All right. That highlighted column there is the motion on the floor essentially for consideration.
And my feelings will not be hurt. if anyone
No,
disagrees.
I will say I'm really struck by, I think you really close to nailed this. Listen, all the things that I had in my head thought should get full, and we've agreed there. And yeah, I think, the in-street, I think that's the only place I might want to wiggle, but, otherwise I think that this is a really great starting. Thank you.
Can I just confirm, this should be a zero in the cell, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sure that is because it wasn't displayed there, I'm sorry. Keep going, so.
I would echo, I mean, I think it's a really. I like it, I would concur with that I would love to find some money for in-street, some, and I don't know how to do that, but that's my one. But I think it's, I would love to say in agreement with what has been fully funded. I think that's kind of what I had.
Is the 70,000 to go in the open space fund required?
No, we've met.
So we met all that.
With the bond service for past recreation projects.
Okay, so I personally wouldn't have an issue with transferring some or all of that to In Street. If, yeah, we have almost $1 million in the open space fund, which hasn't been touched all that recently. I think In Street,
29,000 to the, tax and bond that we got, we'll take it out of open space. But we got a lot of money in that, you know, cutting that money, 29,000, like, screw up the whole project. I got the extra money, I'd rather see it, only on that.
Which one?
which one?
Number 5.
Yeah.
So
Oh, the tower?
he's a probably bringing this one back after this whole request is what he's doing.
Tom suggesting moving the open space reserve up to get more money into, the Atkinson Tower. Or at least some of it.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with splitting that
that's all, but like, I mean, some.
within Street myself.
Open space.
What do you say, Mr. Open Space?
Well, no, I'm, not gonna fall on my sword today. I have a question for Kim. It's a big number for In Street. Does it make sense with a relatively small portion of that to start the project? Or can you do it in enough little increments that this would help?
Yeah, so the presentation, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, but I had broken it out by Patrick Tracy, Byron Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
And the fountain.
Is that in the application
It's in the
itself?
application, I don't remember, but I think one section could be done by itself.
Okay, we're gonna bring it up, and let's see what that looks like.
I remember when we asked that, and same as she's saying here, it said that, break it up.
It's in the slide presentation.
It is, and in the application.
I did. So the budget that we have in the presentation, Byron Court, it came to 189 an upper area, and then behind, Vera's Restaurant, or previously Vera's Restaurant. Patrick Tracy Square, it says $56,250.
I think the upper and the area, were those broken out further?
They were, the upper area came to about 74,000. And then behind Vera's was about 115,000. And you had broken out brickwork and granite steps for both of those.
So, do you mind my giving you more information if that's appropriate?
No, you're talking about the breakout. right?
Yeah, so.
Do you want to see it, Kim?
No, I think that it would be tough to break it down further than that, without compromising the ability to have mobilizations and whatnot.
So I'm happy to repeat those if you want.
Yeah, please.
So for Patrick Tracy Square, it was 56,250. And then, there are two parts of Byron Court. So behind Vera's came to about 115,000. And the upper area, is about 74,000. 75.
Well, the Patrick Tracy, I mean, besides being the lower dollar amount, also, we were talking earlier, so many people go through that park compared to, behind Vera's, whatever.
Right.
I think that if we were gonna put something, I think it would be, that would make the most sense.
Well, hold that thought, because don't wait for me if anybody's got some contribution. I'm just spinning my wheels here trying to move money around.
I was looking at the, meeting house emergency roof replacement.
Yeah,
We didn't fund Customs House at all. We cut, line for the Perkins by, a third. So they have other avenues for which to raise money, and I think if you pull 20% from that line, you find some funds there. From, the 80,000 at the meeting house,
How much were you taking out?
20%.
16?
Yeah,
Andy, did you?
I'm just trying to
copy
find money
the
for
second
the
one?
in-street.
Oh, yeah, sure. I wasn't sure whether we're gonna do it as a modification of the current row or yeah.
I think you just copy the numbers, like everything, just copy
Yeah.
the whole column. Unless others disagree with
yeah,
this,
and
but, and then we can put
monkey
it up.
around with another call. Yeah.
So Jamie, did you just, I think you just suggested that we take about 20% or 15,000 out of the meeting house and put it, basically finish off the Perkins at full funding? Is that what you were proposing?
No, I was
Oh, sorry.
trying to help find money because I do think, like, try to find some funding for in-street. So I was taking around 20% from the meeting house and trying to put it there.
Sorry, I'm just checking this, because when you copy stuff if you don't have a worksheet, if you know where people are gonna go with it, if you're modifying worksheets, you have to make sure the cells are being adjusted with the formulas, and they don't do them automatically, you gotta make sure some of them have to be done manually, so I'm just trying to make sure that's up to date, otherwise we're not looking at the right totals, so. You go with your discussion, I'm just trying to make sure this is
So
not,
right now, the meeting house is off.
uh,
Road.
oh yeah, sorry, so, well, this was going to be 16,000 less, is that what the?
Yeah.
Could add that to
I would try, yeah, I'm just trying
Main
to,
Street.
yeah, I would try to add that to one of the components of in-street.
Sorry, how much was that supposed to be?
16.
So that would be
Oh,
16.
add the 16 itself.
Yeah. We'll go through and get something else.
And then Joe would have a recommendation for. space. And Joe, am I remembering correctly that you were open to reducing the open space funding amount and perhaps putting that into in-street? That,
In-street or at least shared between a couple of them.
Yeah, I think if we could pull from that, and add it to that 16,000 to get it up to a little bit 56, 250.
yeah,
I just don't.
Sorry, you want to make this 5650?
Where's it?
5, 6.
So-
Where's it coming from?
yeah, so we have 16, right? Already there, so 56, what was it? 250
Minus 16,000.
minus 16,000. 15 minus 16. That should be on the rest. So add another. No, we're adding it.
I think you're subtracting from this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So add 40,000, or take 40,000 from that 70,000. So put open space is now 30. And then, in street would go up to 56,250.
And then if we talked about, I can't remember where we landed on it, if we were gonna use all of the 70 for open space elsewhere, like, was that putting that 30 towards the rock tower? Does that almost fully fund
Right,
the rock tower project
yeah,
from where we had cut it?
yeah. See what that looks like.
And then zero out open space, which is 7.
Sorry.
And then we had set a $35,000 reserve and we have 40 there, so we could put the 5,000 somewhere. We put it at the meeting house. I'll bring that up to 70-ish. Chuck, were you gonna say something?
I was kind of hoping to see that we could get Perkins up. And give it a 50. I'd hope to see it get it to 68, short of 10. And I was gonna pay for it by taking 10 off the rock tower. Take it to 90 instead of 100. So I think it's gonna be harder to have closure on Perkins without siding.
I would agree with that, so.
So sorry, just to be clear, this is gonna be adjusted to 56, 60
I can't hear it.
For the Perkins, what did you suggest?
I was suggesting 68.
68. Okay.
That's about 10,000 less than they're asking. They're asking for 77,536. And then I was gonna reduce the,
68, not
Yeah, I
58.
don't know, I was actually trying to correct that typo, and I didn't think, okay.
It's special budget.
And then take 10 off of Atkinson Tower, right
first
below
one,
there.
No, we've got a,
We already upped it, so now you're just down to
You're reducing this one,
120
yeah.
around.
Where are we with the reserve?
Is that right?
what, 30,000?
We have 30,000 reserve. Why do we take 80 away from the rock tower?
You said 120, 700, is that correct?
Oh, sorry, no, I was thinking Chuck had just raised it, so it would be 115. It's 115 of
115 exactly, or with the
Yeah.
700? Okay, just wanna make sure. Yeah.
sure, and then there's our reserve at 35.
I don't know for that.
Hmm.
With my 13,000 though.
For what?
Yeah, I'm confused why we have 35 in the
That's
reserve.
Rock tower.
That's the cushion.
Right.
You know, that's, you know, you can shrink that cushion. And we've done that in the past. That's just where we started the cushion.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, we just went backwards on that.
Yeah. I'd be concerned going below 20 on the cushion just because of what the state might short us.
Well, we can ask. If it's less, just for Councilor O'Brien's thoughts on the rock tower, if we don't fully fund that, would that be a real problem? No,
I don't think so.
okay.
That'll stay. It's up for now.
We're gonna stare at it for a bit.
Okay.
So we're 13,000 under what they're asking for, correct? On the rock tower.
I was saying 100, I was saying 90. They're asking for 20.
If we fully funded the rock tower, I don't say, maybe need all that, but that's still keeps us well above 40,000 reserves.
It's too bad one of these can't be a swing fund, depending upon how the state comes in, whether or not. I don't know if that's possible.
It always rolls over to the next year too, so, and we always need,
Yeah.
we'll have more projects
It
for
does
next
roll
year, so.
Should have
it doesn't
went more last year.
disappear.
But, I know that one year we thought that we were gonna have to just go right down the line and short everybody the amount that the state didn't come through with. But they went to an additional appropriation at the state level, so we didn't have to do that.
That's funny.
You should bring that up.
Yeah, I'm really troubled by not helping the custom house. Such an important building. And they're doing a good job and doing a better job than they have in the past in terms of staying ahead of things. And their programs have ballooned.
What could anything be taken from the tennis courts? I mean, just percentage wise, it seems, taking 20 away from 20,000 away from the tennis courts, to go to the custom house, would that help or hurt either of those causes?
Someone help us with that?
Yeah, I think it would be tough to take away from the tennis courts without having to halt that project until more fundraising is done.
I'd ask for a little bit.
It sounds like there's more flexibility at the Rock Tower.
So
How about you could take from the Hill Street Gardens, I mean, they're looking at moving a fence and putting up a fence. If we do I agree with the chair. If we could try to get to the customs house to, at least a third of what they want, 15 to 20,000.
Well, I'm hearing repeatedly
Could you do-
that there's flexibility at Atkinson Common Rock Tower
Right,
too.
so if you did, we were just told that it wouldn't impact it if but we just put it at 115 down from 128. So it's already taken a haircut there.
it's already getting, yeah.
Right. So if you
But
took,
nobody's sweating. I think Parks could probably live, Chuck, you're saying 100,000.
I'm saying,
So what if we took 100, back to down to Atkinson Common,
oh,
or back the Rock Tower down to 100,000, put that in a custom house?
Fully funded or?
No,
Just for the moment.
15,000,
The 15,000.
just for now.
Just 15 for.
And then if we want to bring that up to at least 20. 25,000.
right,
Yeah, I know.
that's,
We're bringing more.
Oh, we're still talking.
Okay, well, that's one of those election ones.
But how about if we just reduce the cushion by?
that's okay.
could you take 5 from Hill Street?
5 from Hill Street. I think
That's not that's not an unreasonable number.
Yeah.
For putting that fence up.
Oh, it's also private.
Yeah,
It's a tough year. I mean, everyone else is,
it's public.
it's public land.
I think in order to at least acknowledge the custom house, if we took 5,000 of the cushion and put it up in the custom house, that would at least give it a nod.
You wanna take 5, right? Moving 5.
No, just add another 5,000 to the custom house.
Just add 5 and then that'll reduce the cushion that we've got at the bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard pushing.
Well, And you love those zeros, take a zero.
Oh, I heard Cushing too.
Go to your checkbook.
No, it's funny because I deleted it and what it is, I keep hitting, I'm not, the keys in here, I'm not,
Yeah,
hitting them right, so.
Gotcha.
Just flipping on other keyboard.
better you than me. All right, everybody take a hard look at that column.
Does that put you a little lower? I don't, I'll leave it to you, but I don't. Just 'cause you were talking about 35, I don't know if you're worried
No,
about. Okay,
that was intention
got it.
to bring it down there.
We can't start.
So it's a real fun thing. Some complaints about the font.
It's hard to see.
Other input,
Everybody?
time to deal. Let's take it outside. Okay.
Feel better?
Okay.
Yes.
We have to do this.
Try to make it more legible. Then we'll read that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So.
I don't hear any people that are really upset with it, or, you know, now's the time that you got your favorite, you wanna do some trading here? You know, I'll give you, $2 from this if you give me $3 from that.
It's too bad we can't have the open space get any money that the state comes through we have this allowance, this cushion. We can't have that cushion go to open space.
The cushion will roll over to next year, and next year you're gonna see another
Okay,
application.
and you're happy with that?
Reserve, yeah. It's happened in the past where we didn't add to the savings account,
Yeah,
so the next year.
I understand it won't be lost.
Yeah.
It wants to.
Can someone just read the numbers that we can't see it, like where you are on the last column?
Sure.
Someone just
Oh.
read down through it.
Do you want me to?
Go ahead, Jane.
Andy, can you scroll down?
Sorry,
Scroll up, sorry.
it's up to the top right now.
It is to the,
Oh, it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So YWCA, Kim, do you want the names or just?
Yes, please.
Okay, YWCA is at 15,750. Custom House, masonry restoration, 20,000. Meeting House emergency roof replacement, 64,000. The Perkins Art and Research Center Phase 2, 68,000. Atkinson Common Rock Tower, 100,000. Rehab of the firefighters memorial, 65,000. Open Space Reserve Fund, 0. We're skipping the FEMA for now. Bike Trail Master Plan, 25,000. The William Lloyd Garrison signs, 2,265. Waterfront, boardwalk feasibility study, 75,000. In-street Patrick Tracy Square restoration, 56,250. Woodman Park basketball court, 98,563. Knock tennis court phase 2, 474,560. Hill Street Gardens, 35,000. Lower Atkinson Common Improvement Project Phase 2, 231,589. And then we also have a line item to meet the 10% requirement for affordable, which is it still on?
yeah, we're working,
Still,
we're working with 131 for 10%.
I was gonna say, do we remove if we were spending the 15,750 in that category, does that come?
Yeah,
Lower that?
131 is the 10%
Oh,
target.
okay.
So we just,
That's already been.
yeah, it's already been calculated, yeah. Hey,
Can I ask him a question? The rock tower one, without that 29,000, what will that do to the project?
I think we can still do a good chunk
I
of
still can do it?
that phase,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
all right, let's have a, anybody want to do another column? I mean, this is, you know, just because we started with, and went two columns, anybody want to try another column? We'll shuffle around. Any more? Going once, going twice. All right, then, for the record, let's have a show of hands that people are satisfied with the far column there as our, okay, that's a show of hands. Now we're gonna go through and do the votes, for the proposed order. We have to vote on each one. But we'll use the last column amounts as our recommendation for the project and the amount, okay? What we also will do is decide where we're gonna go with the 118 at the bottom for affordable housing. And that'll be another vote. And on the FEMA, we'll have a vote to see if it would be funded in any amount from the open space reserve savings account. Okay. So why don't we do that now? Yeah, for now we're talking about project number 8, hazard mitigation. And it will not be coming from current funds. The request is that it come out of the open space reserve account, which now has $929,000 in it. We've had discussion about it. So we entertain anybody to get it officially on the floor. We'll have a final discussion, then we'll do a vote. Is there a motion to do something with the FEMA hazard mitigation project?
I'll make a motion that it's fully funded.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? I'll say the same thing I said at the top of the hour. That, I feel, the Open Space Committee feels that it's not an appropriate use of community preservation money for that project. And maybe next year we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other houses that'll eat up the rest of the savings account. And it'll take us another 15 years to get it back up to $900,000. And in the meantime, we might be able to get 6 acres out of Crow Lane for $3,000 an acre, you know. And it'll be adjacent to existing protected land. That's just an example. So anyway, I think whatever value there is to the municipality for protection and hazard mitigation, that value needs to be found in other appropriate monies, not from your space reserve. Any other discussion? And all the motion on the floor is to fully fund it out of the open space reserve account. All those in favor? All those opposed? So. I'll follow that up with a motion that the recommendation be made that the project not be funded.
Second.
Second, Any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Moving down to the bottom, at 118,000 for affordable housing. Two options for that. We do have an affordable housing reserve that currently has about 30,000 in it, something like that. And that was a turn back from an older affordable housing project that, that's what we had to bring it back in because it needed to be, when it goes out in the future, it needs to go to that category of affordable housing. So it can just be put in to enlarge that reserve fund. And that would be available for affordable housing initiatives and projects that generally come through the Affordable Housing Trust or from other affordable housing developers, things like that. Most of the time, we use those funds by putting them in the trust hands, because they're the ones with the expertise and the programs. I would, in recognition of the letter from the Affordable Housing Trust, suggesting that they be a good place to put it. I would move to recommend that $118,306 be appropriated to the Affordable Housing Trust for use in their programs, consistent with the CPA requirements. Okay, second, any discussion? All in favor? Good, took care of that. Okay, as a formality, I'm gonna do a rundown of that column with that amount. We're gonna do a show of hands for each line item. And the motion is, I won't repeat it for each one, but for the first one, I will. Motion to recommend to city council to appropriate the amount of $15,750 to the YWCA Market Street Apartments project. Second. Okay, second. No more discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, now I'm just gonna go down and assume that that same motion has been made. Next one, custom house project, $20,000. All in favor? Next. Trouble reading this. Meeting house emergency roof placement, $64,000. All those in favor? Next, Perkins Art and Research Center Phase 2, $68,000. All in favor? Next, Atkinson Common Rock Tower Restoration, $100,000. All in favor? Next, rehabilitation of the firefighters memorial, $65,000. All in favor? Okay, open space reserve fund, not funded, so $0. Favor. Already did FEMA, bike trail master plan, $25,000. All in favor? Garrison sign replacement, $2,265. All in favor? Central Waterfront Boardwalk Reconstruction Feasibility Study, $75,000. All in favor? In Street and Patrick Tracy Square Restoration, $56,250. All in favor? Woodman Park Basketball Court, $98,563. All in favor? Rock Tennis Courts Phase 2, $474,560. All in favor? Hill Street Gardens, $35,000, all in favor. Lower Atkinson Improvement Project Phase 2, $231,589, all in favor. Okay, that leaves us still with the cushion of $31,001. Nice job, folks. We got a little bit of business. Don't get excited. Can't.
I'm sorry to do this, but I'm wondering if we need to revisit the in-street because we had looked at Patrick Tracy Square, like, just a part of that. Do we need to recommend money go toward that, or we? I'm fine either way. I just want to make sure.
If I may,
Yes.
and I don't want to speak for the applicant or the committee, but my suggestion is that you leave it open, but note the fact that your assumption is that it might be applied to a smaller portion, but then leave it to the project manager to deal with, and where else involved with element details, just because it seems like you recognizing why you reduced the amount and we're looking for some sort of threshold, but here, I don't know if you necessarily need to specify its limitation to that area, because I can tell you from a project management perspective, it's a lot harder if you're confined in the little boxes that don't really necessarily produce anything, but they could be more constraining, I think, for the project.
I think the flexibility of, putting it in the square where they need to put it, rather than saying, your budget said this square, or the budget might not work that way. I'm comfortable, and I hope everybody else is, but leave it flexible.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Okay, we have, if you go to the okay, if you look at the staff report that was in the package, we have several grant extension requests. There's a list there. And last year we had a similar list. And we basically voted on it as a block to approve the request to extend these various projects in the amounts, the balance is shown in the last column on the right. And extend them basically for another cycle. They still require to give us quarterly reports and everything like that, but the money stays out there and is available to be used for the next for this year. So, I move that we approve the grant extension request listed in the staff report of March 21, 2024. For each of the projects listed in the amounts listed as balance on the far right-hand column. For a second.
Second.
Andrea seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? As a housekeeping matter, we also need to, yes.
Does there need to be a vote to rescind the Mal bond?
Yes, that was where I was going to, yeah, that was housekeeping number one. You remember that the bond that was approved, that was recommended by us and approved by city council for the Mal project. They have asked that that bond be pulled back. So we need to recommend to city council that in light of that, we recommend that and I'm trying to think of the appropriate word. Is it withdrawn? Is it pulled back? Is it something not floated? I don't know.
Yeah, if I may,
Yeah.
I think that some would be the recommendation to the city council rescinded to vote to authorize the bonding, because in this case,
Rescind the vote, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be a recommendation that the city council rescind its order of which was following your original recommendation for funding, so.
I move that we recommend that city council rescind its order approving the bond that was to be supported by community preservation monies for the Bartlett Metal project. Second. All in favor? Any other housekeeping, Caitlin, in terms of votes you're gonna need?
No.
Okay, I think as a formality, and I don't think we have any this year, sometimes we recommend, our recommendations go with certain conditions. Haven't seen any projects that need a condition on them this year. But if anybody else thinks, all those projects, there's something you wish that you had said where, they do it this way, or, the money has to be spent this kind of, thing. Yeah, I can't even think of an example in the past that we've used, conditions for, but, in any event, I just want to put that out there, because if you had thought that, there was something some specific criteria or specific, instruction you wanted to go with the money.
Like clay courts, maybe.
Hmm? Yeah, yeah, okay, good, I don't think we have any conditions. We had meeting minutes from the prior meeting in the package? Yes, okay. Move to, approve the meeting minutes, from the last meeting, as submitted. Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have accomplished what we set out to today. And I'm amazed. Thank you again. That we did this, and certainly, I think with a fine, equitable comb going through the numbers. Thank you again. Move to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Yeah. Oh, good.